My name is Bryan. I'm 30 years old. I'm from New Jersey, and I have Becker muscular dystrophy. I was 8 years old when I was first diagnosed. All of my childhood I struggled with running, walking up steps, walking up hills. So it was always obvious throughout my life that there was something different about me from other kids my age. But what prompted the diagnosis is I had another cousin who was having similar issues to me but more severe, and he was diagnosed with Becker. And once my parents learned that I had a cousin who was diagnosed, they gave me a blood test that checked the chromosomes in my DNA to see that I had this defect in my DNA that was a marker that I had Becker muscular dystrophy. After the diagnosis, I began seeing a doctor about every year. They kind of just tracked my progression, tracked how my muscle strength changed over the years. Now things are starting to change. I'm starting to have more difficulties. I'm at a crossroads point where I'm going from one phase to another, where I'm going from being very able-bodied and able to do what I want to suddenly having to slow down and not be able to do things I used to be able to do with ease. I'm starting to have more difficulties with steps and walking long distances and lifting heavy things, and it feels a lot more real now. Like it's not just something, this abstract thing that I imagine one day having more issues with. It's here, and that sometimes is emotionally difficult. It's hard when you're able to do something your whole life, then all of a sudden you can't. You think a lot about what makes your identity. There's a lot of small things about your identity you don't realize are part of your identity, like walking up steps. That's something that defines you as who you are. And when you lose little things like that, it's like it's taking away part of who you've been your whole life. I was 24 years old at the time when I decided I wanted to do a long hike. I was at a point where I was out of college, working part-time jobs, so I had the opportunity to take off a couple months to do a journey like the Camino. So I was researching different trails around the world that I could hike, and I found the Camino de Santiago in Spain, which is 500 miles, and it's fairly flat. I mean, it has its ups and downs, but for the most part, it was something that was within my physical capabilities. Challenging, but also something I could do. And the Camino also has a very spiritual aspect to it. I'm not religious, but I think with my condition, I was at a point where things were starting to change, so I was really struggling to find myself and accept that this was going to progress and get more difficult. So I realized I needed to make the most of where I was in my life, what I was still able to do. That's kind of why the Camino became something I realized I wanted to do. And I did it. It was hard. I fell hundreds of times. I had to crawl in certain places. I had to have someone carry me up a hill at one point, but I found a way. I just went my own pace, and I just had the mindset where I was gonna get through this no matter what. I just had to see it through. So after I finished El Camino de Santiago, I realized that I wanted to write a book about it. I'd kept this journal throughout the whole journey, and looking back at it, I realized that there was this story here where I had grown, I had confronted this challenge and faced my demons and got through this difficult thing, and it was a story that I thought could help someone else who was in the same situations as me might see the story, and it might inspire them. It might show them that life is difficult, but you can still find a way to live your life. I think what changed in me the most was realizing that I have this condition, but everyone brings with them emotional burdens that they carry. And I realized that my condition is no different than another burden that someone else has. Muscular dystrophy was this thing I had to deal with, but everyone has things they have to deal with throughout life. So there's nothing that really makes it that much different. I think the biggest thing I noticed when things started changing around age 26 or 27 is things just took more effort. Things that I would normally do just took more effort. And now it's starting to get to the point where things that took more effort are just things I can't do anymore. Like going up a flight of steps is pretty much impossible if there's not a handrail. It's really up in the air, the best way to treat, I think, muscular dystrophy. Some people do physical therapy. For me, I try to stay as active as I can. Not push myself too hard, obviously, but trying to walk as much as I can. I have some gym equipment at home. I have an elliptical that I walk on, and maybe I'll do like 10 minutes on that every other day. Just enough to keep me loose and moving and strong, but not enough to make me wiped out for a couple of days where I, could potentially be damaging myself. think what makes me me is I like to always learn new things. I'm always reading new things, reading books on history and philosophy, and so I'm always looking to learn new things. I think that's something that defines me. I'm always had an interest in like plants and biology, so I'm always growing different plants. I love to watch things grow. I always had different like terrariums or like jars that I grow different plants in. I've always had a fascination with watching life happen and plants grow and stuff like that. I love playing music. All throughout my life, I played the drums. I played, in different bands of friends that I would jam with and stuff. So I always had like a sense of creativity too. I love creating things. I like to do writing and just find things where I'm being reflective and channeling that into something. You have to try to find something good in it. As crazy as that sounds, I kind of look at it as I just see this other side of how people live that, most people will never get to experience. Very few people with disabilities, I think, get to see the fully able-bodied world and the fully disabled world. It's interesting to see through two different sets of eyes throughout my life. Also, it's forcing me to slow down, forcing me to look at life differently. I need to just kind of change how I see the world. I can do things everyone else can do it in a sense, but I just have to go at my own pace and go slower and just find my own way of doing things.